Anti-corruption and transparency group SERAP has issued a week ultimatum to all 36 governors and the FCT minister to account for the agreements and spending details of some 5.9 trillion naira and $4.6 billion loan. SERAP's request also includes details and locations of projects executed with the loans. The group called on the governors and the FCT minister to invite the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and Anti-Graft Agency, that's the EFCC, to investigate the spending of loans obtained by their states. SERAP's request follows the disclosure by Kaduna State Governor Ubasani that his predecessor, Nasir El-Rufai, left huge debts amounting to $587 million and 85 billion naira, making it impossible for the state to pay salaries. Let's bring in the Deputy Director of SERAP, Kolawole Oluwadare, to make sense of what exactly this is about. Good to see you and thanks for your time. First, let's start off by talking about what has informed this move by SERAP. The talk from Kaduna State by the present governor on account of what the former governor left. Is this the same as perhaps SERAP has noticed across all 36 states?
Yes, thank you very much for that. The freedom of information request, though predicated on what the Kaduna State government governor had stated over the weekend, is to all the 36 state governors, including the minister of the FCT. And basically, it's simple. Scheme these public officers to disclose to Nigerians the spending details of these loans, projects, and the steps they've taken, and also to ensure that the anti-corruption agencies are involved in these matters, all for the benefit of democracy and the people of their state. So really, see no reason why the governors will not comply with this freedom of information request. It's in line with the basic tenets of democracy, rule of law, and good governance. And really, it is not enough for Nigerians to have details of loans that these governors have taken. The debt management office does a good job in that regard. What is much more important are the expenditure details of these loans. How have they benefited the people? And who are the beneficiaries? Perhaps that drives the most important conversation around good governance. How these funds have been expended.
Well, now I think the SERAP is also asking for specifics. Perhaps this will help us. When you say you need details and locations of projects executed by the loans, is there, well, a sense of some doubt as to what these projects spread across these states?
We do not have those details. And that is why it is not enough for Nigerians to know that there have been loans. What is more important is how these loans have been taken and the processes of these loans also, which also forms part of the information that SERAP is requesting for. These loans, both domestic and foreign loans, of course, will have to go through some kind of process in the negotiations and, of course, the signing of agreements. Nigerians deserve to know, based on constitutional provisions of freedom of expression and also the Freedom of Information Act, to know the details of this agreement. What are the repayment terms? How long do they have to pay these loans? And what are the interest rates on these loans? And most important, the details of how these loans have been spent. And don't forget, a critical aspect of this is related to the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which mandates both the federal government and subnationals to always undergo a cost-benefit analysis when it comes to the use of loans. This also forms part of the processes that Nigerians should know. How have these loans been sourced? What is the cost-benefit analysis? How does it benefit us? And naturally, the details of how they've been spent, which of course includes the procurement processes. All this is to ensure that the people ultimately benefit from these loans and that they do not end up in private pockets, like we've seen some do over the years.
And Kola, you did say, well, there is an act to help Nigerians understand what this is about. Without SERAP bringing this to the fore, how well can we stay on this to the extent that it doesn't go under the carpet? You made mention of the EFCC and the ICPC.
And that is why conversations like these are important. I want to believe that this kind of conversations, in line by organization, of course, is in line with the constitutional provisions that allows the press to hold government accountable. And so, as it were, this initiative to be taken up by the citizens, by the people who should ask these pertinent questions and continue to ask them to hold those in public offices accountable. This is not something that's been forgotten. This has come up time over time. Why should we take loans? How are those loans being extended? So this conversation should know that. And I believe that the next thing for the citizens of these various states, Nigerians, to take this up as a form of advocacy and demand that these details should be provided. Perhaps when these details are provided, then we can have that much more larger conversation about the effectiveness of this yield or of these loans, about whether it's value for money, most importantly, whether some of these loans have not ended up in private pockets.
We'll come back to the FCC and the ICPC, but again, looking back and looking at the activities of SERAP, has there been any cause for worry in times past where such loans are misappropriated or diverted?
We've seen governors who have been jailed because they've mismanaged ecological funds. So, how are we sure that there has been no form of corruption in the process? And again, this doesn't necessarily mean there is corruption in the process, which is why the least the governors can do in this instance is to be transparent and open. One, because they are morally bound to do so. Two, because it is within the context of the law. If they are legally also bound to ensure that people do know, which is why the aspect of the EFCC and ICPC is important. If the EFCC and ICPD is invited, if they are invited to monitor how these loans have been used naturally, if the governors have nothing to hide, then there is nothing to be found. All this is to ensure that people have that much needed trust in their governors to ensure that they're able to say, yes, that the governor took these loans because it's in the interest of the people, and that the people can track and follow these funds to ensure that they are used justifiably for which for the purpose for which they obtained, really. So this is not a new thing that these loans might be misspent. Most importantly, this conversation and this advocacy initiative is to ensure that the people are able to take account and take charge of this process to ensure that these loans benefit the people. Don't forget, the citizens of these states are, of course, they will ultimately pay these loans back because again, government is this is the commonwealth of the people, and government is holding this power and this funds in trust for the people. So these loans are mismanaged. The people will be the victims. If these loans are well spent, of course, the people naturally will be the beneficiaries.
And how easy has it been working with the EFCC and ICPC to get this done?
It's easy for them to do. Again, the debt management office has done a larger part of the work. Nigerians have details of the loans. When I mean details, I mean the figures of the loans are in the public domain. What remains for the EFCC to do is to check the east inflows as they go into public accounts of these governors and to check them against how these funds have been spent. There'll be paper trails, there'll be money trails that would lead to how these funds are to believe that when these loans were sourced, there are specific purposes for which they were sought, and which, of course, will form some of the things we will see when these details of the various agreements around these loans are published. And then the EFCC and ICP just needs to follow the paper trail to ensure that if a governor had borrowed a certain amount for a specific purpose, then there will be a paper trail that would lead to see how those loans are been spent. Perhaps they were taken to be for infrastructure development in education, in health, or perhaps to even build roads. These monies cannot just appear in thin air. So really, the work of the EFCC and the ICPC is cut out for it if they are willing to do this in this regard. And this does not mean that they need the consent of the governors to do their work. The mandate of the ICPC and the FCC, of course, naturally, for this falls within their mandate. They can always do their job, whether the governors agree to it or not. But it will be in the interest of the governors to buy the respect and the trust of the people to ensure that they invite these agencies to track how these funds have been spent. Again, ultimately, the people will be the beneficiaries, and it will be a sign of good governance on the part of the people and on part of the government.
And Kola, I see that SERAP is stretching this beyond 36 states, but this time you put in Abuja also on the spotlight. Why is that?
Because Abuja is just one of the constituent states in Nigeria. It is recognized as in the constitution as one of the constituents that form part of the state. So, and if you look at the website of the Debt Management Office, the loans that have been taken by the FCT is also there. So the FCT is also a beneficiary of these loans, and naturally, the people of the FCT, just like every Nigerian, should also know how these funds are being spent. It's strictly a matter of good governance, and I see no reason why the governors should resist this kind of move. And I also see no reason why they should end up as another public interest litigation. Really, this is not something that should go to court, even though we have a right under the Freedom of Information Act to go to court if we do not have this information within 7 days. Really, I'm looking forward to having this information published readily by the governors. It's a sign of their commitment to good governance, transparency, and the rule of law.
Well, Oluwadare, Kolawole, Deputy Director of SERAP, many thanks for speaking with us on this.